My name is Yoka Brouwer, and I live in Desert Hot Springs here in California. Well, let me tell you, that's a very interesting question, because I think I was 36 when I found out what the Nazis had been doing, because we had had some problems with my son and went to a psychiatrist, and he said, well, it's no wonder I want to talk to you, because, and I said, why is the mother always the cause? He says, but you told me you had been in hiding. I said, yeah, what's that got to do with it? And he said, oh. He said, but you just have the very demeanor of people that have post-traumatic stress disorder. And that was the first thing, because in our family, the war had not happened. I was 5 when the war ended, 5.5, and that was never, ever talked about it. Nobody ever talked about it. It was as if the war had never happened. And so I never knew. I never knew. There's a saying in Europe that says that the optimists survived and the pessimists went through the camp. The pessimists survived and the optimists went to the camps. My father was a pessimist, and his whole family said it's not going to be that bad, and my father said it's going to be worse. And so we already went into hiding, and that's of course the stories that I've heard, in 1942, because at that point, you know, like he said, there are so many things that already have, that they've taken away freedoms, and it's only going to get worse. And let's get out when we still can get, you know, like in hiding. So we went in hiding when I was about 2.5 years old, in the northern part of Holland. Over the course of the next 2.5 years, and I remember a whole lot, I don't remember everything specifically, I was in 12 to 16 different places, because it was very dangerous to hide a little girl. You know, I had very black hair, black eyes, the eyes I still have. But so basically, when you would have a child like that, people would get like, where does she come from? So the story was, most of the time from what I've heard, my mother had an operation, they were just temporarily taking care of me. So after a couple of months, that story, you know, like wasn't believable anymore, and the resistance would come and take me and bring me to some other house, and you know, to other people. So over the next 2.5 years, I was in about 12 to 16 different places. I remember everybody around me being scared continuously, you know, like, and I didn't know why. I mean, I remember that I was always, I didn't know how to behave. I mean, you know, I knew that I wasn't supposed to be there, because everybody was acting like I wasn't supposed to be there. But of course, I was too small to realize why I wasn't supposed to be there. And then they would tell me I couldn't use my name, because if I would use my name, people would get killed. I couldn't understand. And then 2 months later, I had to use my name again. So I was in a whole lot of different places. And yes, I remember what it felt like. And yes, I remember how it was to be continuously in somebody else's house. And of course, in one house, you had to put your hand on the table when you ate, and on the other house, you had to put your hand on your lap when you ate. And some families did this, and some families did that. And I had not the faintest idea. I was always waiting to figure out what were the rules here. You know, like, what do I have to do this time? And sometimes you could play outside, but most of the time you couldn't. And yeah, I remember. Yeah. Really, only when I was about 36. That's very strange, but because, like, for instance, when I was about 7 years old, I was, and the way that I piece it together, okay, of course, I didn't know that at that time. I had been used to every 2 months being taken somewhere else. And so they told me everything was going to go back to normal. Well, normal for me was being taken every 2 months and brought somewhere else. So mentally, I was sitting with my little suitcase ready to be going again. And, you know, like those people that told me that they were my parents, had they said they were Mr. and Mrs. Claus, I would have believed them too, because I didn't know those people. So when I was about 7.5, I was deemed incorrigible. I've read the papers later on, and nobody ever had there was never anything mentioned about the fact that there had been a war and that I had been in it. And I was deemed incorrigible basically throughout school and high school. And when I was 16, my parents kicked me out of the house. So, but we never talked about it. They were also in hiding, my father and mother and my brother. They were separate from me, yeah. I was about 2.5 when I left my parents, and I was about 5 when I came back, when the resistance, brought us back together again. My father had such a hate for Germans, anything German, whether it was German chocolate cake or anything. I mean, there was a word in Dutch that was moffe. Moffe were the Germans. I didn't know. I thought Germans and moffe were two different things. I honestly feel that by me hating them, I'm perpetuating what Hitler wanted to begin with. And no, there are certain things about Germans that I do not appreciate, because as a group, when they're together with a group, they can be pretty obnoxious. But then Dutch people can be pretty obnoxious when they're in a big group too. So, I mean, I hate their behavior. I hate what they've done to us. I hate the fact that I never had any family from my father's side, because most of them went to the camps. I hate that it made such a mess out of my family life that my father never even wanted to acknowledge that he was Jewish. And on the other hand, I've worked with a whole lot of it, and I honestly feel that at this point there's still a whole lot that's there. I think a post-traumatic stress disorder, it's like you never get completely over it. But the only thing I can do at this point is try to educate kids and try to educate other people on the dangers of intolerance and hate. And I don't want to hate myself, and I don't want to hate other people, because then I'm part of the problem and I want to be part of the solution.